Men have their Hitlers, men have Osama bin Laden. So what's different? Why is Aafia Siddiqui so different from those people? History in general should remember them because of the things that they did. I am Kayley Fullerton, and I decided to do this project because I think a lot of people are uneducated about women and about women's movements and about men influencing women's movements. Dockland wrote an article called "Why Are There No Great Women Artists?" When you pose that question, people automatically try to answer it. We don't have an equivalent of a Michelangelo. We just don't have it because things have prevented us from it, and it's natural, it's going to happen. I would like to see every woman recognized for the work that she's done, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. Well, if it did something in some way to push a movement forward, I think that her work should be just as important as a man's. Aafia Siddiqui, age 34, graduate of MIT, mother of 3, also known as Lady Al-Qaeda, because in 2004 she was detained by American troops for conspiring for terrorist plots against America. She was found with gels and liquids on her person, plans as to how to make a bomb, also plans and maps of New York City, important places like the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, the subway maps. So she had all of this on her person. She has been linked with 2 out of 14 of Al-Qaeda's top members and top leaders. She also was an important supporter of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was the organizer of the September 11th attacks. Basically what he was doing was trying to employ someone to get back into the United States who'd previously been deported. His goal was to get the guy to research how to poison reservoirs and how to blow up gas stations. She got the paperwork for him to come back into the US. They detained her for questioning and eventually released her. She went to go visit her parents in Pakistan, where she's originally from, and disappeared. So she was gone from 2003 to 2008, during which time no one knew where she was. In 2008, she resurfaced at a military base in Afghanistan and let loose on some of the people there. She ended up shooting at a warrant officer there who was trying to find her. She was eventually shot, but she stole somebody's gun and shot them. Yeah. And they sentenced her eventually to 86 years in prison, although originally she was considered unfit to stand trial due to some pictures that surfaced that looked like she was tortured, although in reality she just looked a little haggard from her time in hiding. Also, there were kind of conspiracies swirling around about her supposed disappearance and whether or not it was linked to America holding her captive in Afghanistan. She lost 2 of her kids along the way while she had disappeared, and the Human Rights Campaign is still fighting for her case. They were claiming that she was detained in Afghanistan by American forces and that America has had her like in a secret cell for so long. So that's why the Human Rights Campaign is trying to get her free. And then they were claiming that she was tortured in prison and she looked awful, and so she's mentally unfit now to handle trial, even though she graduated from MIT. She had all of this stuff in her possession. She's been linked with 2 out of 14 of the top Al-Qaeda leaders of the organization. The fact that she was prepared to commit all these actions, even though she was not originally planning to go through with them, or she might have been doing it for somebody else, the fact that she couldn't even stand trial for her own actions is just not, I mean, it's not equal. It shouldn't be fought for. The right that she has to stand trial should be fought for, but her not being able to because of some mental malfunction that suddenly appeared after she's committed all these acts is not appropriate. But at the same time, she's working with the progressive women's movement, and she's, you know, graduating with all these higher degrees. She's becoming a scientist, a mother at the same time. So she is the woman that people want, but she's also using that the stereotypes that we still hold on to, and going against them and saying, I'm all of these things, but I can also do things on the side. September 11th attacks affected everybody, and someone that's linked with terrorism, which is a very real subject in today's politics and culture in general, I think she will help people to kind of connect with the subject and to realize that while she looks good on paper, or she looked good on paper, she has this MIT degree, she's smart, she's educated, she is exactly what women are fighting to be. We have our important people, we have our Clara Bartons and our Abigail Adams, but those people, while we remember them for the things that they did, what they did wasn't as profound as some of the things that men have done. And so they get tossed to the side. We remember them as like, they grace the pages of history. They're women. They're a beautiful part of our history. But the people like Aafia Siddiqui are stains on history, and especially women's history. So the feminist movement wouldn't necessarily be jumping on board to have her part of it when they're trying to fight for equality and to kind of say, like, we are women and we have all of these great qualities and we can do so much, just don't look at anything that we've done that's not as great. Ilse Koch was driven. She was definitely a woman. She joined the Nazi Party at age 26 and married Karl Otto Koch, who ended up becoming the one of the overseers of one of the Nazi concentration camps during the war. He was an upper-level SS agent, and he was eventually transferred to Buchenwald concentration camp. Actually, he built Buchenwald. So she was the wife of the commandant. So the Nazi Party, interestingly enough, elevated her to almost the same level as her husband. I mean, she wasn't that level, but she was maybe one step beneath him. She was in charge of the entire women's and children's wing. She would often parade around in tight sweaters, short skirts, just to enrage the inmates. Another thing that she would do is to ride around on her horse and pick out particular prisoners with tattooed skin. She would arrange for them to be skinned, and then arrange for their skin to be made into lampshades, gloves, handbags, book covers. At the Nuremberg trials after the war had ended, she was tried twice, once by Germany and once by America. She was at first sentenced to life imprisonment for being a part of the war in general, not even for anything specific. So she was pardoned 2 years after serving for all of her heinous crimes. Based on apparently lack of evidence, they said that the skins might have been goat skins, although there is forensic evidence from 1945 that say that the tests done were indeed human skin. Also, they say that it was never found on her person, so they're not really sure if it's hers or not. Regardless, she eventually, after widespread unhappiness at that decision, was put back in jail for another life sentence for 135 separate cases of prisoner cruelty and basically aiding and abetting and helping murder, understandably. So she eventually killed herself in prison. She didn't make saddles or holsters. She made purses and lampshades, things that would beautify her life. Naturally, she would want to beautify her life. But why is that different from a man? Why would a man not make something like that? I think it's really interesting that women still have that need to have something beautiful. She is kind of like the Martha Stewart of the Nazi Party. She embezzled funds even. She served time. Men write history books, obviously. So naturally, we're going to remember the men who did the most bad, the most evil things, or did the best things, did things that were great for the world. Women, on the other hand, I don't think get as big of a page in history. For a woman, I think there's a lot more emotional baggage that they can bring to you. They can say, I'm a mother, I have kids, think about my kids, they're at home waiting for me, I need to take care of them. I have this position of power, I need to stay in this power for the women's movement. And I don't think that's right. I don't think women using their womanhood, their sex, as something that they can get away with things, that's the wrong part. And I think in a progressive, ideal world, that wouldn't exist. Women just wouldn't go near that subject. Nobody would talk about gender because there wouldn't be any gender. But these women are a little more cunning than that, and they take where they are, the fact that they're a woman, what they've done. They buck the system by becoming educated, by doing everything that women's rights wants them to do at that moment, and then they go behind the back and support the men's movement. These people aren't as well known as some of the men because they're women. And in history, that's always been kind of the case, and it probably always will be.